We're headed into the poker room. It's F1 Saturday, so it's going to be a different dynamic. We'll see what it's like. We're going to play 1-3, probably buy in for like 300. It's going to be interesting. Ready to play some poker. I haven't played in about a week. I'm excited. One of the first hands of the session, we're on the button. We got Jack 10 offsuit. There's a couple limpers, and I decide to raise it up to 12 because we're on the button, and I want to play as many hands on the button as possible. It gets back around to the limpers, and they both call. The blinds fold. We're going to the flop three ways. The flop comes 10-9 deuce. We flop top pair. There's two clubs on the board. Both players check. It gets to me. I decide to make a small 1/3 pot bet of $10. One of the players calls and the other player folds. The turn card is the 3 of diamonds. That now makes multiple flush draws, multiple straight draws out there on the board. My opponent checks and I bet $35 because I want to make him pay to see if he's on a draw. I want to make him pay to see it. He does call pretty quickly. The river comes the king of clubs, which completes a straight draw and a flush draw. And he decides to lead out in front of me of 135. Usually when they lead out on the river in spots like this, he probably has a flush. My hand doesn't really beat anything. I throw my cards into the muck and we lose our first pot. It's the next round and we're back on the button. Now we have King 10 offsuit and I'm on tilt a little bit. It gets to me and I raise it up to $20. I only have $100 chips in front of me. And the big blind only has $70 total. And he throws all his chips in the middle. That's exactly what we didn't want to see. It gets folded back around to me, and it's only 50 more to call. So if he doesn't have a pocket pair that's higher than 10s in this spot, we pretty much have a 45% chance to win this hand. I make the call for $50 more. The dealer starts putting out the board. 10, ace, deuce with 2 hearts. We flop middle pair. The turn is the jack of diamonds. The 5 of clubs comes on the river. My opponent quickly flips over his cards after the run out. He's got ace queen. He beats our middle pair of 10s, and we lose the pot. Maybe we shouldn't have raised to 20 pre-flop with king 10 because you never know what your opponents are going to do. It's been a rough session so far, but now we have pocket queens in late position. Maybe we could turn it around. Most players start folding. It gets to me, I make it 15, the button folds. Every other player folds besides the one player who just busted the hand previously. So he has $200 behind him, but his chips aren't on the table yet. We go to the flop and we're looking at 4-4-9 rainbow, which is a great flop for our hand. He doesn't have a 4 most of the time. He checks on the flop. I decide to make a half pot bet of $15 on the flop. He thinks for a bit, but he ends up making the call. The brush comes over with his chips. He throws some chips in the middle to make it even with the pot. The dealer puts out the turn, and it's the deuce of spades. He checks again, and I make a big size bet relative to the pot. I bet for $60 on the turn. We most likely have the best hand here. I don't know what he could have that beats me besides pocket kings or aces, so I confidently bet 60. He thinks for a little bit, makes the fold, and we take down our first pot of the session. We pick this one up a little bit late. We're in the big blind. We have ace-queen offsuit. The button raised it up to 15. Everybody else folded. I make the call for 15. We're going heads up to a flop. The flop comes queen, queen, jack, rainbow. We flop trips with the ace kicker. I check. My opponent bets 20 on the flop. I call. The turn comes out the 10 of clubs. That now brings a straight draw and a flush draw with clubs. I check to give him the opportunity to keep bluffing at this pot. He bets 30 on the turn. And because there's multiple draws out there, I now want to throw in a raise. I make it 110 to go. Make him pay to see it if he has a big draw. And he doesn't end up paying it. He thinks for a little bit, mucks his cards into the muck. And we take down a decent-sized pot. This is one of my favorite hands to play in all of No Limit Hold'em. It's a straddled pot, 1-3-6 are the blinds now. I have ace-8 of spades. I'm in late position, it gets to me, I make the call for 6. Everybody else folds and it gets to the straddle. He gets to act last in this spot. He makes it $20 to go. I call and we're going to a flop heads up. The dealer puts the flop and we're looking at queen, deuce, deuce, rainbow. Not a bad flop for our hand. We have a backdoor flush draw. We have an overcard. And he probably didn't hit anything. He checks the flop and we also check the flop with our decent hand. The turn card comes out a nice one for us. The ace of clubs. Clubs are now on board with a club draw. We have top pair with the ace. He bets 20 bucks on the turn and we make the call. The river comes out, the king of spades, and he decides to make another bet. Looks like 35 bucks. I can't go anywhere with top pair. I snap call whatever he bet on the river. He flips over his hand. We flip over ours. We have top pair with the ace, and we take down a nice size pot. Sometimes you got to just call and pray. Honestly, that session was really boring. I played about 4 or 5 hands in 6 hours. I was sitting at the Wynn in 1-3 no limit. Sometimes you just don't get cards. You just got to sit there, wait it out. Today was one of those days and it was pretty boring. I'm going to go home and just go to sleep.